Hello everyone, welcome back to Wargame Red Dragon. We have the second in a series of 3 between Mark, Carl, and Director, as well as BCA Not Grand, and combine 2 of the teams in the Knights and Squires 2v2 tournament currently taking place on my Black Knight Gaming Discord. And once again I have with me NDMO, an instructor from the Bootcamp Discord, to look at this game, to do some commentary, tell you what we think, tell you what we find interesting and fun and all that. So NDMO, you want to introduce yourself and maybe give us some thoughts about these openers and the map in general as this game gets underway.
Yeah, hello again. So what I'm seeing, the first thing that strikes me is that what we have here is a triple fob opener on Blue Force part. Tuta's got Defender, so I'm assuming Jupiter, we have Scandi, right? So we're going to have a Scandi-ish deck. I
Looks
don't know
like
if it's
it.
going to be mech, if it's going to be unspec, if it's going to be...
Oh, well, let's slow down. Let's answer that question, because we see 2A5s here. What's the veterancy? That, I think, is going to be unspec from Scandi.
2A5s are going to be a Eurocore pick. So,
right.
Or it could be Landja, but triple fob would mean that, okay, they're doing triple... Okay, so I guess both sides are interested in playing heavily into their artillery this game.
It's such a short map. Like, there's not a lot of distance. If they go really heavy into the arty, that could be really oppressive. Holy cow.
Scandi support is something that you see in 1v1 ranked on occasion, or actually not even Scandi support, Swedish support, because you can get 3 fobs and a B-can train going, and you just lose out to the artillery.
Oh man.
So in a team game setting where each member of the team is allowed to specialize, I think a triple fob setup can be devastating if used to its full potential.
So we are going to be going at about half speed just because, particularly in the early game, for such a short game, there's going to be a lot going on. And what interests me, what I want to get your take on, is we see red is opening sort of to the town between Delta Alpha, but also through the center here, while as blue is going pretty much all in right for the town in Delta. Which one of those strikes you?
Let's examine red for real quick.
Yeah.
Is this whose forces are these? Is this all just a single blob? Is this all grand stuff?
Let's take a look. Yes, that's entirely grand. This is entirely Combine.
Okay. So Combine is going to be double Challenger 2 super play towards Alpha and Delta, which is totally standard. And then you have Grand going in for the defense on the right. That's definitely something that works, as he's also having a super hive. So it looks like they're trying to kind of do like a wide sort of encompassing opener that allows them to cover everything at once, whereas Blue 4 is combining their forces, it seems, to do like the sharp arrow and a narrow point, so to speak, and hopefully overpower one of the players.
And, you know, we've talked a couple of times, you and I, about how well teams mix together their forces and really, like, work together. And I think this is this is diametrically opposed. Team Director and Mark Carl is going both in the same place, and these guys are basically trying to play 2 separate 1v1s. At least that's the sort of the take that I get on it. And, you know,
both are collaborating, but both are doing it in different ways.
Right, exactly. And it'll be interesting to me to see which one of those has more merit here on Mudfight, especially because I recently did a practice game here with Feel Good Lost against Viet Cong and somebody filling in for his squire, and it was definitely a sort of similar thing where they were on this side where blue is, they went right down the pipe, and I was on the side where red is, and we did a split opener. So it's really funny how parallel that is. And I think blue is going to have to respond here. They're going to have to recognize that there's enough stuff over here they might have to pay attention. But, you know, you could almost say by the same token that red is going to have to do something to deal with, you know, 2 people's openers going in the same... Oh, no. Oh, no. You see that?
How do you mean?
I don't think that Mark Carl is going to be supporting Director here as was intended. So the double 2A5, sure, but I mean the Kratal is stopped short, the stuff is not really being micro, the Milan F3 is behind the section of woods here, really just not going in at all. I almost wonder...
A little sloppy in that regard, yeah. Both teams opened with 2 CVs, which is a good idea. In a team game setting, you definitely don't want to let your opponent get a tick like that early on, so that's...
I mean, they have no choice, right?
In a 1v1, opening with a second CV on Mudfight is typically not common. And so what we're seeing, okay, this is super static gameplay. Red 4 is a little more aggressive by virtue of them just taking the town first. But what we're seeing is that both sides stopped, and now they're kind of creeping up towards one another instead of outright brawling with each other in the opening, contrary to what you'll see in many 1v1 or specific team game engagements that you'd see maybe on like Bloody Ridge or something.
But
It's a very slow build up.
this is so goofy though, because like Blue sent both of their players right toward the town, and Red's still in here first with a double stack of Gurkhas with a Challenger 2s right behind it.
That's definitely a misplay in my opinion.
Yeah, but how could they have gotten up and in there against this sort of like Vickers Mark 11s, everything here from Combine? What would have been
With
the
a
play?
mechanized contingent, they wouldn't. They could overpower Red 4 if the two of them were going in together, but they've decided there's nothing inherently wrong with waiting. That's not actually a bad thing. Nice
Tiger
trade.
pickup.
That's a great trade. What I actually like to do on occasion on Mudfight is I purposefully play into the rectangle forest and let my opponent push into me, punish them, and then counter push them. So that it depends on what the game is, what's happening. You feel it out, but I agree with you. I definitely think that Blue 4 strategically probably shouldn't have done this because they've given Red 4 a lot of terrain without any meaningful advantage.
Yeah, and I think the story of that could be different if these 2A1s were a little farther forward, like, because then you have the double 2A5 here, you have the triple 2A1, you really could squeeze a narrow lane. I think it's almost, a lot of this sounds to me like it comes down to deck pick, almost. Like, I really like the Challenger 2 on this map. 23 front armor is a pain to get through, even for something like the 2A5.
That A2 might perish. Yep. Warrior Milan gets the kill.
Yeah,
3 AA piece.
Oh, man.
So this is Eurocore and DGC as far as I am aware. This is what Blue 4 is playing. And then we have Commonwealth unspec with what appears to be Eurocore unspec on Red 4's side. So yeah, I don't understand why. So these 2A1s, everything coming in, I don't know why they waited so long to come to Alpha. They could have fast moved down the road all together at once and then taken Alpha, but they're doing this slow creep, which isn't inherently wrong, but because they gave Red 4 can buy a CV right now and be totally fine. Blue 4 can't put a CV in Delta. Red 4 can.
Yeah, I mean, we can see that off the hedges. Like, look at how far forward Red is on these hedges, and Blue just no presence in it, basically. Like, the equivalent here, Blue would have to be up really far into, like, this section of these hedges, into these elbows, these little L's here on the middle of the map, and that's hard to do on this map, I think. Like, I don't know about you, I usually find that I feel more comfortable getting recon infantry forward from Red's side because you're farther away.
No,
like
100%. This town is a huge obstacle on
the one in the middle?
from Blue 4's perspective. Yes, this town is a big obstacle from Blue 4's perspective. Red 4 from the defensive, if it's entrenched, definitely has an advantage. Now, granted, if Blue 4's competent, they could turn that advantage into a disadvantage and keep Red 4 completely out of Delta, but I have a feeling that that's not going to happen this game.
So, I want to see where Grand's units went to, because I mean, they were very separate previously, and it looks like that's still largely true. We have the 2A5 back here repairing, which is just, it's nice to stay on top of that, but then they're very much still playing this, like, left side, right side for the Red 4 team, and for Blue...
So far, it's working out. Mark Carl has secured his part of Alpha, but now Blue 4 has their delayed entry. So the game hasn't really been decided yet, to be fair. So everything that we've said is just speculation. So
well, because there hasn't really been a big engagement.
Yeah, both sides have decided to shy away from an opening engagement that's large.
I wonder about that on this map, just because the opener, and I mean, it can be so dynamic, right? Like, this is the thing people say about 1v1s, is the points that you put on the board in your opener are the most important.
Let's pause that for a second.
Ooh, okay.
He just fed a Alpha 2A1 just got fed to a Fusi squad.
Oh,
this is why you always ensure. This is always why you ensure that when you're pushing with tanks, you're not vulnerable from different angles. He got side shot by the Fusi squad to our front and to the one to its left. If you turn a little, that's unideal. And this is why it's imperative that when you micro your tanks, you make sure that you have proper infantry support. That 2A1 had no idea if the left side was clear, and he just got punished for it.
And like, I wonder about that in DGC, because DGC you get pretty cheap regular recon, and mixing one or two of those in seems like a perfectly fine thing to do on this side. In fact, I don't really see much of that here from Direktor at all. It seems like he's really leaning on the M41A1, which, I mean, I can hardly fault that. It's one of the best units in the game, in my opinion, but I almost feel like sometimes there's not enough recon in Alpha, and we just saw what that can cost you when you don't know where you're headed.
Yeah, Blue 4 blundered by not bringing more recon.
I mean, but Red 4,
100%.
like, look at this. There's no recon here. We have a Lieutenant General, we have a Brigadier General, and there's no recon in Alpha. Just none on either side.
To be fair, Red 4 is playing on the defensive. They don't need recon as much. Blue 4 is trying to take away Red 4's defensive advantage. So they need recon to spot. All Red 4 needs is to sit there. Look at this. They're bringing in Centurion AVREs. These things can't see anything. They're the equivalent of a Star-Nosed Maul. All they need is a vague muzzle flash, and they launch 8HE at it. So Blue 4, being the ones at the technical map disadvantage, they're the ones that need to be more precise with their movements and their unit composition than Red 4.
And I suppose we can see that with these Challenger 2s. Like, they're moving up, they're taking a couple of shots, they're popping right back. Nice, like, really nice control there from Combine, even though, again, he is the Squire, he's the lesser experienced player on the Red 4 team right now. But, I mean, that smoke placement, the Challenger 2s moving up, yeah, it's only high match shoots, but the mechanics here are excellent.
Beating that 2A1 earlier was a big blow because two 2A1s will not beat two Challenger 2s, even up close. A third could have changed the tide, but Blue 4 is kind of stuck right now until they can get more anti-armor support on the left flank.
Yeah, and frankly, I wonder a little bit about the Tiger Hap, Tiger Had buys as well. Like, we saw them have a little bit of luck earlier in Square where the Red 4 Crotal had a swing and a miss, but I don't know. Like, there's a lot of good zoning from the Red 4 team. These Stormers, 3150 meter range is not to be underestimated, and okay, that's a nice pick, but I don't know. Like, it feels, oh god.
Is that a side shot? Thank goodness.
These things.
Actually, no, that was a side shot. You just took half. You lost half HP.
Oh
nope.
man.
No, that wasn't a side shot. That's just 3 damage per chunk. So there you go. Toe twos, everybody.
That's brutal. That's really brutal.
Here comes the CV on Red 4. And see, here's what I mean. So, like, there hasn't been a big decisive engagement yet, but because they just gave Red 4 so much of the map, they have an easier time putting a CV in Delta and middle.
And
Red
look at
4 is
this
going to get
wall.
a tick.
That's a lot of infantry.
I can understand. I think I understand why this game's going to end so quickly. Someone's going to rout, and I have a feeling I know who.
Yeah, well, I mean, the thing about, I don't know, the map selection here is completely up to the players. It's completely up to the teams as long as they both agree. And I think some of the longer games we've seen have been on bigger maps, even though it's, you know, technically 1v1, you know, Nuclear Winter is Coming is a big map. This is a small map, and it doesn't really surprise me that this is going to be potentially a quick one. Oh no. Please see the refill. Do they see the refill? They should, right? Like, let's get Blue should see. No.
No, it's a stealth for you. I have no idea.
Oh
now,
my
technically,
goodness.
the Rafale could lose to these pair of block 5s if.
But only if they're
they are
oriented
not careful.
correctly. So we have a missile away, second missile
That's
away.
fine. Oh, he pulled away too. Oh.
Yep,
my
yep,
God.
yep.
Not the feed.
And Director's out. And I gotta say, that this is not a board position I'd be comfortable clawing back from. And so I know this was a quick one, and we had a lot more going on in the first game of the series. Suffice to say, the next game takes 50 minutes, including deployment. So I think you guys are in for a much longer experience there. I'm sorry this one was a little bit short, but I mean, hey, you pick a small map, you have. There was no decisive engagement until the second there was, and the second there was, it was just over. So, NDMO, do you have any closing thoughts on that one?
This is why make sure you micro your tanks, you guys. Make sure that you don't, if you're gonna let your planes just kind of fly in a circle like that. I make the same mistake. You think that your opponent won't fly a plane in to kill him, then the Rafale at Elite comes out, you lose your planes, and you know what happens? Director just decides to call it quits.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, hey, that's all.
Keep the front straight, guys, and that won't happen to you.
And I do also want to point out, we didn't mention it during, but there was actually not only double 2A5, but double Leclerc from Mark Carl as well. So I think if that game had gone longer, we had the potential for some really goofy, super heavy shenanigans in middle. And it's a shame we didn't get to experience that. But that's all we have for you guys today. Thank you all for hanging around, and we'll see you again real soon.